Next, we're going to be jumping to the eligibility section of the compliance document. Here is where we're going to talk about free and reduced price meal application. We will also, in this section, it also talks about the verification process. So when you want information about the application and verification, you will go to the eligibility section of the Child Nutrition Manual. So it is required that near the beginning of each school year that you do send out a public release. This release does have to be sent to a newspaper. It's not necessarily, it doesn't always necessarily get into the paper. We do tell you, so in your application agreement, when you fill it out online, there is a section that says press release, and you tell us who you give it to. And then what you do is you print that out and you send it to a newspaper. And I would put on there to print free of charge, because it is your requirement to send it to a paper, and make sure you have the documentation showing where you sent it, what day you sent it, and who you sent it to. But it is not required if it costs any money to have it printed. It does include the eligibility criteria for free and reduced price meals. Again, if you use the one in our system, it will print out everything for you. Provision schools must also send out a public release, even if all meals are free. That is also located into our application agreement. We have 2 public releases. So if you are a school with normal counting and claiming, you would fill out the normal one. If you are a school that is on a provision or CEP, you will fill out the provision or non-pricing. So you'll do the traditional one if you are a regular school that charges, that you get applications. But if you do not get applications, you're a provision or non-pricing. Non-pricing, you do get applications, but you just don't charge. Everybody eats for free, even though you are claiming free, reduced, and paid. This shows here on the screen which attachment E that you will fill out. Again, you fill out the one that is applicable to your district. And then once you fill that information out, you print it, and this is what you send to your local media. So applications, again, this references pages 8 through 13. We have what's called the USDA Eligibility Manual. This manual has not been updated. What we have heard rumblings that it will be updated very soon. This comes directly from USDA. All the information that we have in our eligibility section did come from this manual. So parents must make parents aware of the availability of the program, and that's one thing the press release does help do. Must make parents aware of how to apply for benefits, and you cannot require a parent to complete a free and reduced form. So you can sit here and tell them, you know, your kids can get free meals or reduced price meals, the benefits of filling it out, but you cannot require a parent to fill out an application. So the free and reduced price meal application, you have to complete the copy, which we have on page E52 through E61 of the eligibility section. You have to make sure you have the letter to the household included with the application when you send it to parents. They do need to fill it out. I mean, you can't require them, but they do need to fill out all sections, except it is optional if they want to fill out the race and ethnicity completion. It's completely optional by the parents if they want to fill that part out. So why is it important for the applications? Well, one, it's not only does the child get free reduced meals, what is tied to the application is like the low income report. It goes toward your title funding, state aid, any E-rate, and some grants are all tied to your free and reduced rates. Students enrolled but not attending a brick and mortar school, like a virtual out-of-home placement and juvenile detention center. So you can do applications for them, but you just don't use the eligibility of the free and reduced for things like the low income report, which also is tied back to your state aid. So there are different types of applications of how you approve them. There's one called Categorical, other source categorically eligible, income eligible, and we have what we call Carryover. And we're going to go through this whole process of these different types of applications of how you approve them. So a categorical application, the parent fills out the application that you sent out. In step 1, it's for all the children in the household. That is where they're listed. It should be their first, middle initial and last name. The name of the school and grade is very helpful, especially for you large districts. We do need to have the birth date, and then they check yes or no if they are a student. In step 2, this is where they list a case number, and this is what makes it a categorical eligible application. A case number is anything like SNAP, TANF, or FIPR. So SNAP is if they're receiving food stamps. TANF is temporary assistance for needy families. And what FIPR is, it is if a family is getting commodities from a tribe. A child, if they receive SNAP, TANF, or FIPR, they have to list their case number, and that case number for SNAP would be A, B, C, D, H, J, or T, and then it's followed by 6 or 9 digits. If they have TANF, again, it would start with a C or an H, and again, it would be followed by 6 or 9 digits. If it is a FIPR number, that means they're getting tribal food assistance, and it depends on the tribe of what that number is. We have seen social security numbers, we've seen random numbers, it's all just dependent upon the tribe. If a family is receiving FIPR, again, that means that they are receiving food assistance or commodities from a tribe. If you're a school district and you have children that are on a roll, this does not apply to that. The child nutrition program, it is all dependent upon income. It is not dependent upon if you're a part of, say, a roll or anything like that. So a family, they could be on the roll, but they have to be receiving commodities from a tribe in order to receive free benefits for child nutrition. Step 3 is not necessary if it is a categorical application. They do not have to put any income on there. If there is any income listed, then you can just disregard that, and then you go straight down to step 4, where the parent or guardian will sign it and date the date that they sign the application. If a child on an application, and if one person in the member of the household receives SNAP, TANF, or FIPR, everybody in the household does qualify for free meals. So as long as you have one number, any case number from anybody that lives in the household, then all children do eat free that is listed on that application. We have another type of application called other source categorical. A foster child is considered other source. It does not convey eligibility for free meals to all children in the household. The foster child is the only one that is free. If there are any other children listed on that application and agreement, then you do have to go based on if they have any income, or if they have a SNAP, TANF, or FIPR number. So if you have an application, you can have household members on there, including the foster child. They can all go on one application. However, the foster child is the only free child, but everybody else that is listed on the application that attends school, it doesn't mean they're automatically free. You do have to make sure that the other household members have either income information on there to approve them, or another SNAP, TANF, or FIPR. If there is a foster child, so please make sure you put a check in the appropriate box. If care and placement is documented by the state or the court ordered, a student can be directly certified. Now, I will let you know when it does come time for a foster child, if someone asks the question that I'm a guardian, a guardianship is not a foster child. A foster child is considered a child that is awarded to the state. They are in state custody. A guardianship, if it is a guardianship situation, then the family would put their income information on there, or a SNAP, TANF, and FIPR information. But a foster child is a child that is considered a child that is awarded to the state, and they are technically in kind of state custody. The state has reign over the situation. A guardianship is, we do not consider a guardianship a foster. It's just somebody has stepped in to take care of the child. So if they do ask the question, we don't require that you have any documentation stating or showing that they're a foster child. What we do ask is that if someone does come up to you and say, hey, I'm a guardian, what do I put on here? Then you would just say, then you would put your household information. That's what would go on there in case it's a guardianship. Other source categorical is what we also consider homeless, migrant, and runaway. So if somebody lists on the application agreement that they're homeless, migrant, or runaway, child nutrition staff cannot approve this application. What they would do is send that application over to your homeless, migrant, runaway liaison. Every district is required to have one. They are the person that deems that that child is in fact homeless, migrant, or runaway. So what you should do is, from your liaison, is get a list of names. the effective date and have it signed. These students are not included in verification when it comes time to that, so you would take them out of verification. So again, if you have any child that you think is homeless, migrant, or runaway, or it's indicated on the application and agreement, then you would send that to your child, to your homeless, migrant, runaway district liaison. You do not approve it until you get information back from your liaison. Income application. So if you have an application that's filled out and you're approving it based on income, again, in step one, all children in the household are included in step one. Again, it should have their first, hopefully their middle initial and their last name, the name and the name of the school and the grade that they are in, their birth date, and then yes or no if they are a student. Step two should not be completed if it's an income application. That is step two, is where you list if it's SNAP, TANF, or FITPER. So if it is being approved by income, there would be nothing in step two. In step three, you would list any child income, adult household member income, and that income needs to be in the gross amount for each person receiving it and how often they are receiving that money. And there are some things, some determinations, whether what income is excluded, what income do you include, and that is in the manual, and we'll talk about what page that's on. So there are instances when child's income will not go on there. If a child just works, say, a summer job or after school, and it's not a steady amount, then that information would not be on the application. We do have definitions to help you with that. If you are curious what type of income does go on there, what type of income is excluded from being put on the application, or if your situation, maybe you're retired, or maybe you have garnished wages, or maybe you received a lump sum, or you're self-employed, there is information on how to fill out the application correctly, and we will send you to that page in the manual. If you still have questions about that, if they ask about income, of what is included and what's not, you can always reach out to your program specialist and they can help you out further. And sometimes it may be a situation where we do have to reach out to USDA. So on that income application, again, for any foster children, they are automatically free, but any other household member, you do have to list on here. Now, money received from a child for foster care would be listed as household income. But money that a parent receives for a child that is foster, they do not need to report that on the application agreement. So if you have a family with a foster child, they do not need to put the money that they receive from DHS on the application. If that child happens to receive an income, then you would list it there, but the family does not list the money that they receive from DHS for that foster child. You include all household members, again, including that foster child, and a social security number is not required unless the children in the home are listed on the application and being approved on income. So if you have an income application, you do have to have the last four of the social if any income is on there that you're approving it by. If you have an application that is just SNAP, TANF, or FITPER, or just a foster child, you do not have to have the last four of the social. They just have to have the signature and date. But if you do have an income application, you go to contact information, signature of the adult household member, and the date, and then you do have to have the last four of the social. And again, it is optional on any application that the ethnic and racial information be listed on. That they do not have to fill that section out if they do not choose to on the application and agreement. USDA does have applications in other languages. We do have the Spanish one that we have that's from USDA posted in our Spanish section and other documents. But I just counted the other day, in USDA, if you go to this website, they have 50 different languages of applications. Now, I will tell you, we don't touch those applications that are out there. If you were to go to this web address and go to the Spanish one that's out there, the date on there still says 2017, 2018. We did take it and update it for us because we have a lot of people that do use the Spanish version. There's a really good chance that the application out there will not look like the other applications that we have, and some may be dated very far. We don't touch those. Those come directly from USDA. So if you do see anything out there from USDA, just use that. It may have a different date on it, but you can still use it because we do know it comes directly from USDA, and they do not update them every year like we do with the English version. We do have a copy of the Spanish one. So if you would like to use ours, it does have the correct date on there. We find it makes it easier. But if you do go out to USDA and it does have a different date out there, it's okay. It came directly from USDA. They just do not update all the applications every year. Districts must have a system in place to identify language needs for families. Communication must be in a language understood by the parent. If you don't, then they're not really going to fill out the application and agreement. The school must ensure all households have access to an application information in a manner that they can understand. And again, you can go to this website here and you can get any application. Again, there's 50 different languages that are available that you can use for your families. So information and processing these applications. The effective date of certification for benefits is determined by you. This, you will go to your policy. I believe it's your policy. I can't remember. I think it's in your permanent policy. In the checklist, you indicate in there the effective date. Is the effective date the date that you approve the application, or is the effective date the date the parent signs it? You have the option, but we always tell everybody to whatever it says in your application and agreement, that's what you should be doing. So just go back. I'm sure many of you are filling out the application right now. So just make sure that what that question states is what you are doing in your district. A district, when you do receive an application though, you do have to approve it and issue benefits within 10 operating days of getting that application. So for our bigger schools, a lot of time you'll have more people help you out on deck to get those applications approved, because we really don't want them going past 10 days because you really want to get that benefit to the child. Applications that you receive from a family, they have to be approved at face value. All records must be kept on file for 3 years unless they're needed for a review or audit. So you always have the current year information plus your past year 3 years records. And in a provision school, you have to keep your records for as long as you're on provision. So if say your base year for provision, the last time you received applications was in 2012, then when we come out to your school, you should still have all the information from 2012. If you don't have that information, then you will have to reestablish a base year. So every year, just make sure you check that where those records are kept, because you do have to make sure, because that is what your base year information is based on, is those records. So if you're losing, if those records are no more, or you cannot find them, then you will have to reestablish a base year, because we have to have records documenting what you're claiming. If you have, which it makes complete sense that you just give every child in every class an application. But what happens if you give out all these applications and you have a family with 4 kids and they send back all 4 of those applications? Each child brings one back. Well, if you have multiple applications from the same household, you look at all of them, staple them all together, check to see if the information on them matches. If the information does not match, then just contact the family, because it's very understandable that maybe you have mom fill out 2 applications and dad filled out 2 applications, and dad doesn't quite know what mom makes. And so you could have some missing information there. We're not saying anything's wrong, but if they do not match, then you do need to contact the household just with the top one, state that you talked to the household and what the information is, and then put that, and then notate that you talked to the family and this is the correct information. If everything does match, then again, they should all be stapled, and then you can approve it accordingly. When it does come to applications, even if they're paid, again, if you get 4 applications, you cannot throw or discard any application away. You have to have all these applications. If you get 3,000, if you have a family that they give you 10 applications, you have to keep all of them. You cannot just be like, well, we have 10, I'm going to shred these and just keep 1. You have to keep all of them. You have to have full documentation of everything. Records are required, and I understand that a family might give you multiple items, but you cannot discard anything. You must keep all documentation that you receive regarding child nutrition. Again, if you receive multiple, you staple them all together. If they don't match, if the information doesn't match, then just contact somebody from the household to get all the correct information, and just have the top one be the main one that you look at. But you cannot discard any information or any documentation from child nutrition. Now you may get some applications that are zero income. And what this means is that they are literally getting no income. So NA, if anybody on the application and they put NA for not applicable, that does not mean it is a no income application. It means that they don't want to give you their income. Applicants without income are requested to write a 0 on the application. They need to put that they literally get $0. They can't leave it blank. They can't put in A, they have to write 0, indicating they get 0 money. A blank application just means, again, that they did not want to fill it out. If you process a 0 income application, they have to write the 0 in there. It has to have a signature date and the last 4 of a social, because you are approving it based on income. And they're saying that they get literally 0 income. So again, just if they are getting 0, if they leave it blank or put in A, it just means that they don't want to give you that information. But make sure that they write a 0 in there, they sign it, date it, and put the last 4 of their social. So to determine of benefits and documentation, so there is a total income section. You do indicate the intervals of that income, the household size, this is how you approve it, the benefits that you determined, and then you have to have a signature on there. There's a determining official signature line, there's a confirming official line, and a verifying official line. So an application is not approved until someone from the district fills that out. Now, some of you may have your computer system. Your computer is the one that does the approving. If that's the case, what we do say is you don't have to fill out the bottom line, but what I would highly suggest to you is to at least sign the determining official line and the date that you put it into the system. That way we do know, because of some schools that have multiple people that help approve applications, we know who is in case anybody has a question on it, they know who to go talk to, who was the person that entered that into the computer system. So we have a lot of schools that the computer system does do your approval. You just put everything that's on the application into your system and they tell you if they're free, reduced, or paid. If that's the case, you do not have to fill out the bottom section, but we will tell you what you do need to do, that you are stating that all the applications were approved correctly. Again, my biggest suggestion to you is if you do have multiple people, even if you just have one person doing the application, the date that they put it in the computer, I would have them sign the determining official, or even just print their name and the date. So that way you do know the date that it was approved and who approved it into the system. When you get your application agreement, we have what we call the eligibility scale. It's for free and reduced. You use this to approve income applications. Again, on this chart, it's on page E61 in the eligibility section of our manual. We also have it in the other documents. You can go there as well. And the top section, so if the income falls below the top section, that they would be free. If they go over the free scale, but they go below the reduced scale, then they would be considered reduced. If the family makes more money than what's on the reduced scale, then that family is considered paid. You cannot hand this scale out to parents. The reduced scale is on the application. You can only give them the application and the letter of the household. You cannot give them the eligibility scale. Again, this is what you use as a district to determine if they are free, if the student gets a free benefit, a reduced benefit, or if they are full paid. So what is the duration? You get an application. How long is it good for? So once you get an application and you approve it, the benefits are good for the remainder of the year, plus the first 30 operating days of the next year, as long as that student is still enrolled. Households are not required to report any changes in circumstances, but we have had some situations where some school districts that we would highly suggest. So example, in Oklahoma City area, a few years ago, we had a lot of layoffs at certain oil companies. So if we knew, like at certain districts, that they had a lot of children that attended that district, they would maybe reach out to all the families and say, hey, if you would like to fill out an application agreement, you can, if you would like to get benefits, because if someone loses their job, they may now qualify. They could have been full paid. They now may qualify for free or reduced. You may have somebody at the beginning of the year that is free, but then they end up getting a job or a better job, and it would bump them out of reduced or paid. They are not required to fill out another application. That application is good for the first 30 days, for the whole year, and the first 30 days of the next year. Now, we call that the 30-day carryover that goes into the first 30 days of the next school year. If you happen to get, if you see anything on direct certification, or if you do get a new application before the 30 days, the new application does trump that 30 days. So let's say we're 10 days into school, you're using the 30-day carryover, you have the application from last year, and on day 10, a family, they were free, they give you a new application on day 10 of school, and they are now paid. You have to go with the paid rate. You can't let that 30 days carries out. Once you get a new application, or once they show up on direct cert for that year, then that trumps the information. But we do allow for 30 days. If after the 30 days, they do not give you a new application, then they automatically go paid, whatever their benefit was before. If you do not get a new application after that 30 days, then they do go to paid. So in case you get an application and we say it is good for the full year, the remainder of the year in the first 30 days, when does that not apply? Well, it may not apply is maybe when you originally determine the application to say be free or reduced, and then you looked at it again and they really shouldn't have been, then you would change it to what they really should have been. During verification, we have what's called confirming. And what that means is, and we'll talk more about it in the verification section, but when you get an application, someone is the determining official who said, or was it computer that stated that that child was free. With verification, whenever you pull your applications for verification, you have what's called a confirming official. Only the verification, the applications pulled for verification, you have to have somebody confirm that they were approved correctly. So during that confirming process, it may have been determined that no, it was not approved correctly. So then you do have to change their benefits. We also have had situations where maybe the child shows up on the direct certification list and the household is like, no, we should not be receiving that benefit, or they can refuse benefits. I've seen I've been to many schools where they did have at least one child that they qualified for free meals, either based on application by income or direct certification, but the household did refuse the benefits. And you can still use that child as a free eligible or a reduced eligible, but you do have to charge them if the household does refuse the benefit. So you can still use the eligible part of what you found, and we need to see that. But if the family does refuse the benefit, then you do have to, in the system, you would have to start charging them for the meal. On the carryover applications, it is the free and reduced price that does get carried over. If you have a newly enrolled student that appears on an application that was submitted in the previous year, so let's say you have a family and that family the next school year that they have a child on there that was in pre-K, or that was a 3-year-old and they're now going into pre-K, or they were pre-K and now going into kindergarten, you can, if they show up you see them on an application, especially it's easy to do in a small town, then you can use that benefit for that child for the first 30 days. Also, if you have Head Start, directly certified, or any other source categorical eligibility, again, those are all categorically eligible. So when it comes to time for carryover for 2023, so it is allowable for the district, because we haven't taken, last year, you guys, everybody ate for free, but it was highly suggested that you do get applications. In 2020 is really the last time we had kind of a normal, most of the normal year up until March. So USDA does allow for you to use applications from 2019, 2020 as your carryover. If you did receive an application, say one in 2022, and you have one from 2020, if the application in 2022 was actually a better benefit than the one in 2020, you can use it. So if you have an application from 2020, 2021, or 2022, whatever one is the better benefit for the child, you can give that to them for the first 30 days. So after that, again, you do have, if after that 30 days, they do have to go to paid, unless, again, that carryover will stop the day that they give you a new application, or if they show up on direct cert, or if they show up on your homeless, migrant, and runaway list. So carryover eligibility when it comes to provision. So if you have a child that was at a provision 2, 3 school or a CEP, and they move to another school in the same district that is not a provision, that child is free for the first 30 days, or again, until determination is made by a new application, or if they show up on direct cert. So if it's in the same school, the same district, but they just go to a different school, they're still free for 30 days. And then once you get a new application or they show up on something else, that will be the new determination. Now, if you have a child that's at a provision 2, 3, or a CEP school district, and they go to another district, the school district that is a provision school needs to give that student a letter stating that they are at a provision school. So let's say that you go to school XYZ and they were provision, and you go to ABC school and they're not provision. So XYZ school will on school letterhead, they will give that child a letter saying, this child attended XYZ school district and we are on provision 2. And so they will take that letter to the new school ABC, and that child again will be free for 30 days or until they get a new application or that new determination is been made. So it's the same process as the regular carryover. It's just if you are at a provision school and you go to a non-provision school or district, that letterhead will give you your 30-day carryover. So Head Start, if you are at a school district that has a federally funded Head Start or Even Start, all children that participate in that Head Start are automatically free. If they have siblings, those siblings do not automatically qualify. It's only the children enrolled in that federally funded Head Start. Their eligibility is based on their household income application unless directly certified. And that is, again, for siblings of those that are in Head Start. If you have kids that are in Head Start, again, they do eat for free. If they are, say, a 3-year-old program, a Head Start, they are not enrolled in your school district. It will only be the meals that are free. You cannot claim their eligibility. And that kind of runs into the pre-primary, is a child or group of children ranging from birth to school age. So pre-primary classes are eligible to participate in the National School Lunch and School Breakfast program. The classes of primary are higher grades. Regardless of such, pre-primary classes are recognized as part of the educational system of the state. They may be approved for meal benefits by filling out a free and reduced price application, or if you do have that federally funded Head Start. If it is a state Head Start, it does not automatically qualify for free. They would again have to have an application agreement. So pre-primary children, if these children are not enrolled, they must not be reported in your free and reduced price eligible counts. So they cannot be in your low income report. You can feed them, and you can feed them based on the determination. So if on the application they are free, you can give them free meals, but they are not considered ineligible because they are not enrolled in your district. The only meals served to these children can be claimed again for reimbursement. A pre-primary child, an example, a 3-year-old cannot be enrolled in a school district unless they have an IEP or a 504 plan. So if you do have a 3-year-old that is there because of an IEP or 504, then they can be ineligible. But if you have just a 3-year-old program, again, you can claim the meals based on what their application states, but they cannot be in your eligibles because they are not enrolled in your school district. So definitions for application approval, again, we have determining your household size, reportable income. It has to be gross before taxes, military benefits, and income exclusions. You can find this information on E23 to E26. Again, you may have some questions. We talked about a foster parent not having to report the money they get from DHS. You have questions because you are self-employed. This is the section that you would go to on how they need to list their income on there. It's kind of definitions and what they need to do in their particular situations. We also have what we call direct cert. Direct cert is required to be used by every single district. Direct certification applies to every child within the same household. So if a child does show up on the direct cert list, it means that all children within that household do eat for free. Direct certification approval date flexible. So the date the student began receiving benefits, or is it the date that you pulled the information? We have, and again, this is all going to be based off of your policy that you have in the policy statement on number 13. That's where this is determined. Again, like with your application, is it the day that you approve the application, or is it the date that the parent signs it? It's the same with this. What we have seen sometimes on direct cert is you may be in school, it's October, and you pull direct cert once a week, and then you pull it one time in October and a child pulls up and it says August on there. So it has sometimes happened. It just has to do sometimes with either how the school put them in the system and how DHS put them in the system, and it just wasn't reading it. So sometimes you will see that information that does come up, but again, it depends on the date the student began receiving the benefits or the date that you pulled it. And again, that is determined by what you answer in number 13 in your policy in your application and agreement. You can get a direct certification list from a tribe. We have several schools that have reached out to tribes, and they will give them a list of those that do receive commodities. So you can get that, as that is considered direct cert as well. Direct certification is when you reach out to the organization, the state agency, or the tribe directly and get a list from them, and it's not coming from the family. That is what direct certification is. So direct certification does again have to be pulled by every district. If you are a provision school, you need to pull it at least one time per year. If you're a regular counting and claiming school, it needs to be pulled at least 3 times per year. You can pull it as many times as you want. We have some that pull it weekly. We have some that pull it monthly. We get the report from DHS at the beginning of the month. So it takes just a couple of days. So if we get it on the 1st, then I think the matches are there on the 2nd or the 3rd. So we do get a new list from DHS every month. But again, sometimes, like I said, you'll have names that it finally pulls it based on, it may have been just a little bit different in one of the systems, and it finally will recognize it. So that's why we do have some that pull it once a week. We have some also that do that because they have a lot of kids that leave the district or come into the district. So they may pull it, but you can pull it as often as you would like it. This is an example of the wave. So you will see here that we'll have the child's name, the date of birth, and then it also gives the match and the date. You have to make sure it has school year 2023. If it says school year 2022, this is not a correct list. It does have to say 2023 to be in the current fiscal year. When it does come, we have a couple of reports. Always pull the full report. We do have an eligible first 30 days report. We really don't suggest this. This can be used for 30-day carryover, but you would have to make sure that you go back into your system and pull them out because it could be just a carryover. But we really do we just really highly suggest in August when the report comes out that you just pull the full report. Now, directly certified students, again, it can come from the Wave, and there's SNAP, TANF, and FIT, and SNAP, and some TANF, you'll see SNAP listed on the Wave. FITPR, you can get directly from the tribe. The homeless migrant and runaway, that would come from your homeless migrant runaway liaison at the school district. Maybe you have foster children. If you contact somebody at DHS regarding them, if you have a Head Start program or an Even Start program, you would need something signed by Head Start or Even Start with a signature of who all is enrolled into that Head Start or Even Start. The Wave does have identifiers. A lot of times you're not really going to look at these numbers. We send these numbers to your software. So it may be a little bit different than these numbers here, but it's really the items that you're looking at. So every child does have to have an identifier in the Wave through your student information system. So you have, if they're SNAP, if they're a foster child directly certified, foster child not directly certified, homeless migrant runaway, Head Start, Even Start, residential child care institution, non-applicants approved by local officials, case number, so that'd be a categorical information. And this is how you approve them into your information system. Income household through the application, maybe through direct cert, they were TANF, maybe you got something from the tribe and they're FITPR. Homeless migrant runaway based on application, which would really be from your liaison, through direct certification other than SNAP, TANF, and FITPR. And then OT you do not use, and then not eligible for benefits or for those that are paid. Now, again, you may have somebody that qualifies for free and reduced, but the family is refusing the benefit. You would put NA because they don't qualify, but then you would also put, there's a box that you would check in there and it's called economically disadvantaged. So economically disadvantaged means that they do qualify for free and reduced, but not eligible means that they are refusing the benefits. So once the eligibility has been determined, the income households must notify the eligibility status either verbally or in writing or email. You just have to let the family know, are you free, reduced, or paid? If income household is denied, so if an application is denied, meaning that they're going to be full paid, you do have to send it in writing. So it can be an email, but it has to be in writing. You can verbally tell somebody, hey, your child is free, or hey, your child is reduced, but it does have to be in writing if they're going to be paid. If a household has been approved through direct certification, you do have to send out the notification letter, and it has to be in writing. And again, remember, if one child in the household is directly certified, then all children in that household are free. You do have to use our direct cert letter, and it does indicate on there that if there are more children in the household, then and they do qualify to contact you to let you know. If you are a non-pricing school, then notifications still must be extended to the household if the school is directly certified. So it can be possible to identify another child in the household that was not on the DC list, and the notification is not necessary if a household submits an application that is denied in a non-pricing school. So if you are non-pricing and you have a denied application, you do not have to contact the family. You're not charging anybody for the meal. They just want them to know if when you're denying somebody a benefit that they're going to be paying, but you're not if you're non-pricing, you don't charge them. You still collect applications, but you're not required to send them a denied letter. So again, with the direct certification, you have to use our letter. If you do not use our letter, or if your computer system, the letter does not look like it, you must send that into our office. You would send it to Karen Davis, and you have to have pre-approval. This letter that we have is USDA's, and again, you have to use it. If you have something that looks anything different, then you must send it to our agency. We have to approve it before you can use it. So that is everything to do with benefit issuance and direct certification.